there was a prediction that more people would die from 9/11, from the illnesses, than died on 9/11 itself. And that seemed inconceivable to most people at the time.
We can reassure the public that the air is safe to breathe, the water is safe to drink.
Because the EPA said the offices were safe and employers ordered their employees back into these buildings, and thousands of us are now permanently ill.
I traveled with the world-famous Ink Spots. I headlined at Radio City Music Hall with the Rockettes dancing behind me. I sang everywhere there was to sing a song, but I can't sing now, because every time I try to sing now, I choke.
Right after the 9/11 towers came down, EPA falsely told the public that there were no adverse problems with the air from the buildings coming down and all that asbestos, lead, and other hazardous material being sent into the communities. And so, in fact, that wasn't true.
Even someone like me who was down there in that smoke when I was volunteering and going back to work down there, I knew in my head, like, this couldn't be healthy. But you're in such shock and denial of the whole thing that it even could have happened, that you're just trusting people.
The World Trade Center contained about 50,000 computers, each of which was made with at least 4 pounds of lead. So that's 200,000 pounds of lead that was pulverized, some of it to such small particles that EPA didn't measure them.
It's calcium sulfate, wallboard basically, and when you crush that to a fine powder and you distribute that through the environment and people breathe it, it's a pH of somewhere between 9 and 12 they measured. And that's really very much like inhaling Drano.
New York City directly lied about the test results for asbestos in air. When they finally released them, they doctored the results. They changed high hazardous levels to 0 when they finally released them.
In fact, the air was hazardous for many, many months, and all those tons of hazardous material were lodged in people's homes, in their offices, where in many cases they still are today.
How are they going to say that there's no chance you're going to get cancer from having breathed all of this stuff? The synergistic impacts of having breathed all of these carcinogens for months on end.
The correlation between smoking and lung cancer, that's not debatable anymore. The cigarette companies made that case for many, many years. They knew they were lying, but they got away with it for many years. Well, it's the same thing here. The correlation is so high that even if you didn't know why the dust was causing them cancer, you can just say, well, it is.
Logic would dictate that there has to be a complete cause and effect to a lot of our 9/11 patients and rescue operators that were exposed to these toxic metals and their current cancers.
Carolyn Maloney and I did the Zadroga bill, the two of us really, with some help from Pete King, but it really was Carolyn and me who battled each other and battled the city and battled everybody else about drafting it and what should be in it. The bill itself was a lot of compromises, and then we had a battle to pass it. It took us 7 years. Finally passed it, the very last act of the Democratic Congress in 2010.
The only reason we got the Zadroga bill, in my view, is because Jon Stewart publicly embarrassed both houses of Congress, you know, with the strong help of and inspiration of John Field.
This was 6 years of my life, this Zadroga bill. 91 trips to Washington. Enough trips from here to D.C. to circumnavigate the Earth twice.
I don't think that the Senate would have considered the bill had it not been shamed into doing so by Jon Stewart.
He brought the firemen on his program, he sat them around him, and he asked these firemen, some of whom are dying, to say what they thought about the Zadroga bill.
He said that he would die and go in his grave, and if the only thing he did in his whole life was help the 9/11 people who got sick, that he was okay with that.
The bill covers chronic cough and laryngitis and carpal tunnel syndrome, but didn't, and I don't want to appear ungrateful, cover cancer.
I know this bill backwards and frontwards. I've memorized this bill word for word, and we knew before the bill got passed that cancer wasn't going to be added.
The cancer missing out of the Zadroga bill, I can't believe that. And cancer has a latency period. It can be 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 years. Do we have to literally wait till there's a body count of people who don't get their funds and don't get help?
I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I was pretty much a health freak. So now all of a sudden, I get throat cancer. They tell me it's not recognized.
This was the worst exposure that this person had in their life. So prove to me that their cancer didn't come from that.
They don't want to cover cancer because they can't predict it. Well, you know, that can go one way or the other. Like, if you can't predict it from this new horrible combination of toxins that we were exposed to, but you know that the toxins on their own are cancer causing, then how freaking stupid are these people?
This is a heartless, vicious, calculated system that is now in place. The Zadroga bill is a good cover story, and it makes everybody look, it makes the government look as if they're being beneficent towards people.
I heard it don't cover a lot of things. But what am I going to do? I know what they do. They're not going to give it to me. Somebody will be there to block it.
I would err on the side of caution and get the people the early detection and treatment that they need. That's what should happen. And if you end up treating a few people for cancer who didn't actually get it from ground zero, is that really so horrible?
No, cancer isn't covered, but will be. I'm confident of that, and that was the plan.
Cancer will be added by the end of this year. I'm that confident. We have the statistics, we have the facts, and the reports are now benefiting us. You know, for years they said we cried wolf. We didn't cry wolf, the wolf ate us. The onus used to be on us to prove that 9/11 got us sick. The onus is now on them to prove 9/11 didn't get us sick.
People keep saying, oh, the bill, cancer's going to get in the bill. To all those people that say that, you have no clue. You don't have any clue what people go through. You have no clue about death's door, about being at it.
It's vital that this country and this federal government takes care of these men and women. This is the greatest nation on earth because of the American people, the resolve and the testament.
America can get back on track by all of our leaders in government and everyone coming together with truth. And there's been very little truth about what really happened with 9/11. What was in the dust? We were lied to. We weren't given respirators. We went down there. Hundreds of thousands of people are sick and are not being properly cared for. And that's where the healing needs to start, in truth, in open discussions, not treating people who are 9/11 victims like they need to just shut up, because we have shut up. And it's been 10 years and no one's getting better and people are dying.
Effectively, our own government has extended and exacerbated the disaster of 9/11.
How many times do you have to be hit on your head over and over and over before you realize that our model of thinking is wrong? If you keep applying the old obsolete model to these new problems, you cannot resolve them.